So this story, the way it was presented on CNN this morning, verbatim, was protests erupt in Philadelphia today after police killed and shot a black man. Now, let me provide some actual context here. Yes, protests did erupt.
They did.
But it's almost like you need more.
Tell us more.
It's almost as a tell me more, like did he have a knife? Tell me more. Did he put up a fight? And how crazy would it be if a black guy in the wrong area of Philly was like, tell me more, I almost stabbed your cop ass. What are you talking about?
No, you just...
Like, I just into musicals and I hate cops.
It's a crossover.
It's kind of my calling card.
You know that's actually going to be a hit on Broadway.
Yeah, exactly.
This is going to be a hit on Broadway. Right now, it's going to be Hamilton. Now, the black man in question was Walter Wallace Jr., and police were responding to a call about a man with a knife, and he charged at the police officers with a knife. For those who have not seen the clip, I warn you it may be disturbing, but here is what actually transpired. Here he is with the knife, running up.
Oh, shit. Oh, my God. Bro, they just killed them in front of me. Yo.
Now, if you watch that video and your first instinct is burn down in O'Reilly's Auto Parts, the problem is you. Jeez. Let's be really clear. That guy was clearly charging cops with a knife. And people are saying the cops didn't do anything to de-escalate. Well, what do you do when a guy is charging you with a knife? And here's something else that I think people need to take into context. We all have, I was talking with the Audio Wade before the show, we all have relatives who maybe have acted out for, let's say a relative who maybe was an alcoholic or a domestic abuser. We had someone who we sort of had witnessed swatting around their child, a distant relative. And we're like, oh my gosh, we don't know what this person is capable of, so we didn't trust them around anybody. Right? Because once someone crosses that line, well, what do you think is a prohibition for any action for Walter Wallace Jr. if he's willing to charge police officers with a knife? Where does he draw that line? As far as I'm concerned, someone who charges at cops with a knife with the intent to attack them, as you clearly see there, that is someone who cannot be trusted to be anything other than violent at all times.
And they gave him more time than I would have. Right?
Oh my gosh.
Me or you on the street and somebody's coming at us with a knife and we have a firearm, they were backing up, creating space, which is what they're supposed to do. They said they didn't do anything to de-escalate. Yes, they did. They gave him time to make a better decision, which he refused to make.
Right.
And they created space between them. They gave him verbal commands to drop the knife. If he had dropped the knife and kept walking, probably wouldn't have gotten shot.
Well, the people saying de-escalating are the same people who say shoot them in the leg, right?
Right.
And by that, I mean potentially your future president.
I mean, this is a situation where it's in broad daylight. They can see what's going on. And this gentleman didn't just, he wasn't just standing there and he's being arrested and maybe he reached for his pocket or looked like he was reaching for his pocket. He moved around a vehicle towards them with a knife while they're shooting at him, while other people are shouting at him to stop, and they're backing away and taking this action. I mean, there's just no question that I think that anyone who criticizes this is really saying, oh, well, he was just going to threaten with it, or he was just going to use the tip. Just a flashlight.
Just the tip to see. Just the tip to see if it kills. So, it is remote. He wasn't reaching into his pocket. The knife had already... he wasn't like, double mint? That's not what happened. No. I want to be really clear about this. If they're going to protest and riot over this, listen, then there's no scenario in which you believe... It's true. You believe in completely defunding the police. If you don't believe that police have the right to defend themselves, and of course, people in the community, by the way, people of color, women of color, we didn't care about that with Jacob Blake, right? It doesn't matter that he committed sexual assault because at this point, this is the victim du jour, which isn't even just people of color, it's people who happen to get shot by cops, regardless of whether or not they sexually abuse other people of color. And in this scenario, if you don't think that a cop has the right to defend themselves when they're being charged with a knife, okay, you believe in totally defunding the police. That is your stance. And I tell you what, though, if they continue rioting and looting and it makes its way out to Lancaster with the Amish again, bye-bye Pennsylvania. We're already seeing the polls coming in. You have a guy who said he's going to ban all, not just fracking, all fossil fuels, and now they're going to start rioting and protesting. The only reason Black Lives Matter went away was because the DNC has had a talk with them and said this is showing up. Remember Don Lemon? It's showing up in the polls. Well, what polls? We haven't seen those polls. You say all the polls are great.
Absolutely.
But all those protests are totally organic.
Yes.
Totally
they're peaceful.
Completely organic.
Mostly peaceful, no fires behind me protests. By the way, do we know why they were called out there? Is that out yet?
I believe they were called because of a man wielding a knife.
Oh, okay. So
but I don't, at the time of this broadcast, I don't know for certain. We do know that he had a knife there, as you can see in that video.
Right. So here's the trade-off, right? If this is outside of the bounds for you, a cop being able to defend their own life to make sure they go home to their wife and kids that night or their husband, then they're just not going to come when you call them with a man with a knife on the street. They'll be like, well, hey, guys, sorry, we can't come for that because if we have to defend ourselves, you're going to try and kill us.
Yeah, well,
so,
no, they want to
sorry.
call a social worker who could show up and ask him about his mom.
Let's talk.
You know what I really want to know is how many social workers are like, yeah, I wanted to be in that situation.
Yeah, right.
You know, like I got one of those like no cut gloves that you use in the kitchen. You know, I've got 2 of those. I'm going to pull those out of my knapsack and then make sure I also cover face shield because COVID. Right? Did we forget about that?
Yeah.
And
we're not animals.
Peaceably talk to this guy. Make him see that
about his mother. Did your mother also attempt to stab police officers with a knife? Oh, interesting. Oh, that's one for you, Wallace.
Runs in the family, I guess.
And people just don't realize how bad this can go. I don't think I've told you guys the story, but one time I was representing a federal judge asked me to represent an inmate in a pro bono civil case, and I did, and he had to come from jail for his deposition. Marshals brought him out and set him down. He's still in chains the entire time. And during one of the breaks, I'm sitting next to my client defending, objecting to the deposition questions that are being asked by the prosecutor. And one of the marshals pulls me aside during the break. He goes, hey, do whatever you want to do, but I would just recommend that you not put your pens or pencils near your client. Not saying he's a bad guy. I'm just saying I've seen it twice. A lawyer gets stabbed by his client with his own pen. Wow. And he's like, so just do what you want to do.
I was just trying to perform a tracheotomy because my half-Asian lawyer got more of a flat face.
He was just trying to make sure I could breathe. But that's how quickly things can change, and we don't realize that. We are so fortunate that we have these officers out there to take the involuntary tracheotomies.
But here's the lower third on CNN.
Just listen, that's already a pretty lengthy lower third. Could you just add knife-wielding?
Yeah, exactly.
Would it kill you to add knife-wielding in there? Like, that matters. This goes to show you, again, everything. It's going to be a long, dark winter. Oh, we're going to have a downturn economy. Unemployment's going to go up. Look, cops are still racist. They need you to be terrified to vote for them. A vote for Donald Trump is a vote saying, hey, you know what? We're not perfect, but I still think this is actually a pretty damn good country. We've done pretty well before this pandemic. A vote for Democrats is, I don't believe there's any hope in this country outside of our Lord and Savior, Biden Christ. Now, of course, protesters, because, 48 years, 49th's the charm. Protesters, of course, they reacted with, well, we have a montage of protesters gonna protest.
They ran that lady right over.
You know what we never talk about in this country, too? Those protests, like, oh, this is the voice of the unheard. That guy was definitely grabbing more than he needed. Why don't we talk about greed from people who also create nothing? We talk about greed with people who are wealthy. Sure, is that guy not a greedy prick? Just, I'm gonna grab all these shoes, but those are size 9 and you're a 13. I don't give a shit. What do you think? These people, they're just hoarding, going in there and stealing from another business owner. That is complete and total unfettered greed. Why do we only use that attack against wealthy people? Of course, it's a valid criticism. These are greedy people who are taking advantage. We want to get mad at people for price gouging in a natural disaster. How about just actual theft, taking things that you don't need?
I don't understand how robbing a store is now the way to end depression when the store is likely black-owned, black-employed people working at the store in your own community. Like, when did this become the thing? Those 5 pairs of Nikes are going to make things okay. Right? And the other person in there, she said, they ain't got no socks.
It won't make it okay, but it'll make it better.